Okay, so new topic of conversation here. So making the world flat. So we all are modern people. We know that we live in a global world. It's a sphere, right? They used to think it was flat, right? But, you know, arguably, potentially arguably, Columbus sort of settled the issue of it being round, right? Or somebody did. Who knows? Maybe it was aliens. I have no idea. But right now, we're going to talk about making the world flat. All right? So, showing the world on a flat map. The most accurate view of Earth and its land masses is on one of those blue things that's on your desks over here. And you can look at those things and you can spin them around and you get a kind of an idea of where everything is. It's based on a sphere, okay? But in order to see everything, so if you guys are all looking at the spheres that are on the tables here, you can't see everything at once, right? You got to spin it and you got to keep spinning it to kind of cognitively map the globe. All right? So flattened views, like the one I showed you in the previous lecture, right? Those things tend to show all of the continents and all of the ocean masses all at once, right? All right, so let's take a look at what that thing was that you saw. The most common form of a flattened view of the Earth, the one that you guys are probably used to seeing the most, is called a Mercator projection or a Mercator map. Okay? It's based on transforming. This is important so you guys understand how it was developed. So picture the globes that are sitting on your desk and imagine those things being sort of stretched out and turned into a cylinder with north being up. Okay? So we go from this round ball and it turns into like this drum. And then you take the drum and you unroll it. Now, one of the things I want you guys to think about in that is that as it's stretched, right, the land masses kind of stretched too, right? And one of the primary purposes of the Mercator projection was for navigational purposes. And as such, the distances between the edges of land masses was more important than the shape of the land masses. Does that make sense? If you're on a boat, you're not going to drive it across North America. You're going to come to the edge of it, and then you're going to conquer the rest of that place on foot or in a canoe. All right? And so here is an example of the Mercator projection again. Now, in the previous lecture, I showed you how big Antarctica was, right? Look how big Antarctica is here. It's bigger than all of the other continents put together. You guys saw how big Greenland was, right? I made a point of saying, hey, look at Greenland, right? Greenland is almost as big, right, as the entire it's bigger than the United States in this map. And again, you have to remember the purpose of this map. The purpose of this projection system was to be able to follow what's called a rhumb line. And no, it's not spelled R-U-M, it's R-H-U-M-B, okay, across the surfaces of the oceans. All right, so in the late 1940s, an architect, this is important, right, since some of us are architects. In the late 1940s, Buckminster Fuller, all right, developed or proposed a new type of map. His idea was that Mercator projection, right, was really inaccurate. And so he tried to figure out a way that, hey, how could I create a map where you could get a clearer picture of what's really going on, how big things are and how far apart they might be. And what he did is he came up with the idea of projecting the world's surface onto this thing called an icosahedron. I can't pronounce the damn thing. Anyway, it's essentially this faceted sphere, okay? And what resulted from that, okay, was this Dymaxion globe, where the sphere gets turned into that isosahedron or icosahedron, right? And that in turn gets unfolded into a flat map. Okay, and that's an animation straight out of Wikipedia or something. But it shows how the world gets turned into, instead of a cylinder, it gets turned into that polygonal form, and then it gets unfolded and unrolled. Okay? And that is called the Dymaxion map or the Dymaxion globe. It is sometimes also referred to as Fuller's projection. So here's an example of Fuller's projection, right? And you can see that it's unfolded in a certain way. Okay, so that's one of the things to note is that the Fuller faceted globe can be unfolded in different fashions. It doesn't have to unfold only one way. And so in this particular case, what Fuller was trying to do, right, was to show the continuity of the land masses. Now, when you look at the globe that way, I'm looking at this one right here, right, and all I see is water around everything. But the reality is when you look at it on this map, right, it's like, well, gee, I can kind of tell how somebody in a canoe, right, or with like snow boots could easily have gotten pretty much everywhere except Antarctica. And Antarctica, it's debatable that they did. It's just such an inhospitable place. Okay? The important thing to also note about this is that it shows the land masses as truer to their shape, right, than it's shown on the Mercator map. Here is a different view or a different unfolding of the Dymaxion globe. This one chooses to put the world's oceans together, and it puts the South Pole more in the center and shows the sort of remoteness of Antarctica as compared to the other land masses. All right. Now, one of the things that Fuller was sort of thinking about, right, was people being able to walk across the face of this earth. So we have this period called the Ice Age, wherein portions of the earth cooled, and the caps, the polar caps that are all ice, expanded, right? I believe at some point they got to 128. I don't even remember. It's a massive number how thick glaciers got. Okay, but I put a dot there, that shows the potential area of where the polar ice cap could have grown, and it probably grew further than that. Okay, and you can see that all of a sudden Europe, Asia, and North America, right, are all pretty much tied together by an ice cap. And from North America, you can walk through Central America to South America, and pretty much there's some very short distances between Africa and Asia, and there's a whole series of islands that go down to Australia, right? All close together, and you could easily see human populations being able to migrate in that fashion. As a matter of fact, one of Fuller's thoughts and one of other scientists' sort of thoughts is, hey, this is how everything started, right, in Africa and then moved across the face of the earth. This was proposed back in the 50s, right? Now, in the new millennium, they've done mitochondrial population genetics studies on artifacts, not on artifacts, but on remains, and they pretty much have proven, right, how through the geological record they can show that people started in one place and moved all over the earth. So our main thing in this course is we're going to be using the Dymaxion map so that we can understand where all of this architecture exists, right? And so we're studying a map of a physical thing, the globe. And we are essentially mapping it against a hypothetical thing, time. Okay? And so that becomes an important thing to understand is we have this globe, it's physical, and architecture occurred at different times in different places at different levels across the globe. All right? I am going to stop this sucker and see if there are any questions or comments or discussion.